buddy. What's up to Lion Talk Live? So we love you too, buddy.
What's going on, guys? It is Aiden Hutchinson.
What's up, man? It's your boy Amon-Ra St. Brown.
What's up, everybody? It's Calvin Johnson Jr. here, a.k.a. Megatron, a.k.a. First Ballot.
What's going on, Coach Dan at Lions Talk Live and the Duke Crew. This is Ball Hawk Ifeatu Melifonwu of the Detroit Lions. Everybody make sure you help support the YouTube channel Lions Talk Live by clicking that like and subscribe button. Let's get it and go Detroit.
Greetings and salutations to everyone out there in YouTube land. This is Dan Skipper, offensive weapon for the Detroit Lions. Make sure you all help support Lions Talk Live and Coach Dan by clicking on that like and subscribe button. Everybody, woo!
I love nothing more than watching Lions Talk Live every morning. Woo!
Well, greetings and salutations to everybody out there in YouTube land. I am your host once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for joining us here today. Hey, Lions Talk Live, morning show edition. And yes, we're getting a little bit closer and closer to the NFL draft. As we all probably know, if you've watched the NFL, if you watch any kind of major professional league over time, more and more information gets out to on a draft or whatever it may be, the closer you get to it. And I think we got some compelling information that we've been able to get for you guys for the morning show today. We're going to break on down what really does look like. If you believe in analytics, if you believe in the things that people say, if you believe in all that stuff, then we've got some information for us all to try to digest here today. And yes, I'm having some issues with the backdrop here. Let me try to fix it real quick, live on air without having it fall apart here. Someday I got to really figure that thing out better. All right, before we get into the main topic of the day, before we get into the 5 headlines now, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so. Making that march for 13,500 subs, and we're just, I think, 7 away, something like that, whatever it is. All right, if you're enjoying the show and everything we do on Lions Talk Live, reach on down, hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, hit all the buttons, help the channel out. We try to get every episode of the show between 200, 300, 400 or more thumbs up or likes. Last but never least, if you are maybe looking for something to read, maybe you got to do a book report, maybe you just like reading, I don't know. It could be all the above. Don't be afraid to go to Amazon.com or wherever you find great reading literature and order yourself a copy of Kajora book. It is the first in a 9-part series. The second one comes out later this year. Has to do with historical facts, but some allegedly fictional characters. So if you like Japanese, Native American cultures, you like all that type of thing, you might want to give it a read, check it out. And if you enjoyed the book, don't be afraid to leave it a kind review. All right, with all that done, said out of the way, let's get on over into 5 headlines now. All right, 5 glorious headlines coming your way. Detroit Lions Dan Campbell reveals the next step in Jared Goff's development that he hopes to see in 2025. PFSN, publication I don't normally know of. I don't know if I've ever heard of him before. Story by Leanne Lohman. So we're going to say this. Goff, I think most of us agree. If you go back and watch him, his first couple of years with the Rams, he does look a little shaky. By year 3, though, he's off the charts, MVP caliber kind of guy. Makes it to the Super Bowl. We all know this story. Nearly wins the Super Bowl. Has a couple drop touchdown passes. Also missed a couple of passes. But he was a younger quarterback, a younger individual. Didn't have as much experience. Now, you've seen him since his time here in Detroit. And yes, the same trajectory. He keeps appearing to get better. Once again, an MVP frontrunner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In this story, and I think I give Leanne a lot of credit. I think she does a great job with the story, but it does give a bunch of quotes that MCDC offers in regards to how we'd like to continue to see Jared Goff develop. He does point out that in his time working with Goff, he thinks he's clearly improved, become a better and better quarterback, and he doesn't see that slowing down. Points out that the 30-year-old quarterback, is really just beginning to enter his prime as a quarterback. Hopes to see him take more verbal leadership roles. All sorts of little details that maybe on the outside looking in don't seem like the biggest deal, but he wants to continue to see Goff extend his abilities, extend running plays. He does mention that. Also continue to look downfield and just be another coach on the field. As quarterbacks get older, you probably all get it. They get better on the field just because it's harder to catch them off guard with things. Dan Campbell does mention that in this interview, and I think we're all spot on with it. If Jared Goff continues that trend upward, he's 30. He could potentially play in this league another 10 or so years. And every year he becomes more like a Warren Moon or a Tom Brady or a Joe Montana or whoever you want to list on that list of Patrick Mahomes. It's just harder to catch him off guard from a defensive coordinator standpoint with different formations because realistically they've seen it all. Goff's been in the league long enough where he's been in here for nearly a decade. And according to MCDC in this report, he really does expect Goff is going to continue to evolve, continue to improve. And again, he wants to see him just become more of a leader on the field, take more ownership in the offseason, and we'll see if that happens. But I think if MCDC is correct with this, we might just be beginning to see the prime of Jared Goff. And that's really scary for a statistical standpoint. We've seen what he's done the last several years here in Detroit. Can you imagine if he gets just 5% better, 10% better over the next couple seasons? Jared Goff might actually win the MVP. All right, move on to the next one. Detroit Lions 2025 free agents who remain unsigned. This is from SI.com, story by John Macaron. So we get it. Probably not a big surprise here, but let's go through the list. There are a number of Lions we all anticipated would probably sign with either us or somebody else, but as of yet have not. Teddy Bridgewater, not probably a shocker here. I do not know, maybe some of you guys do, if he's going back to coaching high school football. Obviously, he's going to have to worry about that sooner versus later as spring is here and summer workouts will be beginning very soon. Jameer Jefferson, the running back, not signed. Wide receiver, Allen Robinson, not signed. Donovan Peoples-Jones, not signed. Offensive tackle, Connor Gavin, not signed. Kyle Pico, not signed. Ben Neiman as a linebacker, not signed. Kewan Alexander, not signed. Emmanuel Mosley, I don't think you'll see him ever again in the NFL. That's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong for his sake. And then kicker, Michael Badgley, having all currently not acquired new deals either with the Detroit Lions or other organizations. We'll see if some of them make a comeback. Pico, I could see maybe being on Detroit Lions practice squad. Maybe Jefferson as well. Who knows with some of the rest of them. Neiman, I do think he did fairly well in a limited capacity here this past season with all the injuries. All right, this one is not exactly Detroit Lions news, but I did want to bring it up. NFL owners reveal timeline for league to expand to 18-game season. This is from MSN. And again, not exactly a Detroit Lions story, but I think we're all going to see and face it. According to several sources I've talked to, in 2027, that is the targeted year for the longer schedule, with that year being viewed as the earliest it could be instituted in the NFL policies and schedules. They're trying to work on it. And yes, all kind of a footnote to this, the NFL is looking to expand globally. It does sound like they're trying to target 2027 to 2030 for adding a few more expansion teams that would not be stateside. Now, there were no specifics regarding that. It would be my anticipation and mine alone. You're probably looking at the UK and Mexico for the first outside the states or borders teams, and that would make a lot of sense to me. For those who don't know, the flight from, say, the East Coast, the UK, is shorter than it is if you go from, say, the East Coast to the West Coast of the United States. So I think if how they're going to work that, I guess we'll figure that out in about 3 or 4 years. But 18-game season's probably on the way. It does sound like also international teams are going to start emerging for the NFL, which probably also is going to mean divisional realignment. Aiden Hutchinson injury update proves Lions Myles Garrett chatter was useless after all. Fan side story by Laura Lampert. So we get it in this story. I think they do a pretty good job of breaking on down. The Lions and Cleveland Browns did have conversations, and not just last year, but this offseason too. Aiden Hutchinson's injury, while gruesome, terrible, the whole shebang-a-bang, it does also look like it was not as bad as some were predicting or projecting even a few months ago. Hutchinson, we've probably all seen the video at this point. He's out on the field. He's running. He's dipping. He's diving. He's having a pretty good time. He looks like he's pretty dang healthy. Yes, he's still got to get all the strength back in that leg, but that will happen in time. In regards to the trade request, ESPN's Kimberly A. Martin points out that the two teams did have chatters, but there was something that broke down the conversations. There's no specifics in the report what that was. I know I reported to you guys last year before the trade deadline. Lions did come close to pulling the trigger for Myles Garrett. They did not want to give up Hendon Hooker, and I don't remember what it was, something else like another first-round pick or something like that. Again, I'm going off memory, so don't hold me to it all. but it was clear the Cleveland Browns wanted that extra stuff in order to make the trade happen. This offseason, it does appear the Lions had conversations, but again, the asking price for the Cleveland Browns couldn't happen. Part of the reasons why the Lions at that point appear to have been so after acquiring a veteran defensive end is apparently because uncertainty about Hutchinson's recovery. As Hutchinson's recovery became more and more apparent, he's going to be A-okay, right as rain. The Lions kind of started backing off, trying to acquire a proven veteran star pass rusher. So, hey, something to pay attention to, but I guess we can all say this. It's pretty good news that they're backing off other veteran defensive ends because that means, in their opinion, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be just fine. All right, next to the 5 headlines down. In fact, the last one. Lions should hope to land defensive game changer from dream draft scenario. Sideline report, Max DeMar with this one. Hey, I won't spend all day on this one. This report just come out. It does kind of outlay how the Lions would try to get Mike Green in the later portions of the first round. Talks about all the good stuff with him. Talks about some of the stuff the Lions like about him. Talks about a lot of different scenarios. I think we all would agree at this point, Mike Green is a very athletically gifted person. I'm sure you go to the Boss Up, Ball Out podcast or Spirit Detroit's podcast, Avery's or, Kurt Steele's or whoever else you want to go into. And we're probably all going to hear the same stuff. That Mike Green, just like, Pierce Jr. and a couple other guys listed, just doesn't have what we are assuming is the prototypical size the Lions want at that big end position opposite Hutchinson. Now, that's assuming we're all going to keep the same stuff that Aaron Glenn has done the prior several seasons. There is some speculation, growing as it may be, that the Lions may be shifting their overall defensive schemes and philosophies, formations to become more of a hybrid, change of pace defense from time to time. We'll see if that happens. Me, myself, and I don't see Mike Green coming to Detroit. I mean, if they get him, I won't be disappointed. I'm sure most of you won't either. He did, Mike Green didn't test the NFL Combine. I don't think that's really going to hurt him. His Marshall Pro Day was a sight to behold, though. He posted a 6.85 second 3-cone drill. Now, for those who don't know the 3-cone drill, you're flying at that point. If you're anywhere near 7 seconds, yeah, you're the road runner, man. You're all over the place. It's going to be hard to catch you. He also posted, check this out, in the 40-yard dash, a 4.25 time. So I don't know who's clocking that one, but if that's legit and that he got that fast on the 40, I got to imagine, yeah, he'll be a top 15 pick, maybe even top 10. Again, we'll see what happens on draft day, but if he's available to Detroit Lions, I think if nothing else, it's an interesting conversation. I think most of us get the Lions are probably targeting defensive end, if not in the first round, the second round. But this is going to be a good segue into the main topic of the day. So let's not waste everybody's time. Let's get on over that. I want to see what you guys have to say about this. I've been up since about 4:30 a.m. working on this. Since I woke up kind of, to use the lavatory and got some of this information on my phone. So I want to dive into it and try to do it as much justice for you guys as possible. So let's get into it. All right. So I'm going to take you guys through the draft, and then we're going to break down the reasoning behind it according to the source. I tried to cooperate it with as many people as I could this morning, but I think you guys probably all get it. You get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock. There's just not a lot of people up where they're going to respond quickly. So I did the best I could with the time and resources I had. All right, so let me get to the right screen. Sorry, guys. I am a little tired after being up so early. So, all right, let's get into it. With the first pick, I think that's where we're all going to want to know where we go. We'll work our way down from there. I did not have time to get graphics for everything. Apologies for it. So with the first pick, Greg Zabel is at 28. The Lions do not pull off a trade in this scenario. They stay here. We all get it. The Zabel, 6'5", 312 pounds. There's some reports he's closer to 330. Whatever you're going to say, though, big, massive offensive lineman would come in probably opening day or pretty early in his rookie year and probably be a starter. even if he's not a starter on day one, probably most of us would agree during the season he's going to become the ascending starter unless they really miss the boat on the kid. Now, here's where things get interesting. And again, after we go through the picks, we're going to break down what the source had to say on all this and why they offered the selections at each spot. All right, next one is Kenneth Grant. I'm sure, second round pick. Everybody watching the show is probably jumping up in joy. I get most of you guys are Michigan fans, but the Lions get him at number 60. And for those who don't know him, hey, there's a little bit of a brief thing on the screen for you guys. 6'3", 330, 340 pounds, whatever you want to say, and just dang athletic for a defensive tackle, especially a DTI. So that's somebody who's stuffing the run, and this guy can get after the quarterback. What do you say there? He's got, as you see on the screen, a beautiful blend of speed, size, power, the whole shebang bang. Most of you guys have watched this guy for years now at Michigan, and I think you're all going to be pretty happy with it. Now, here is where it gets I'll just say with the source, they said, hey, Lions are going to be aggressive, and you remember this name. We just talked about Kenneth Grant. Apparently, the Lions are going to make a move for another Michigan player. There's going to be a trade. You're going to say what the trade is? Well, this is the perceived trade. Obviously, nobody knows. Take it with a grain of salt. But the Jets give up the pick 102. The Jets give up pick 73. Lions get, as you see on the screen, pick 102. Detroit's 2026 third-round pick and their 2026 fifth-round pick. Now, why would you do that? And again, we'll go into this further information after we walk through each of the picks because the Lions want this guy bad, Josiah Stewart, and there's no bones about it. They want him. And I think you guys, again, because he's from Michigan, you all know about him, or at least the vast majority of you guys watching this. He possesses, you guys all seen it. He can do the rip and dip. I love his up and under move. I love how he gets rid of the hands of the offensive lineman and get around. He causes problems. And with these first three picks, what have the Lions done? They've targeted the offensive line, the defensive line exponentially. Now, while you're saying, man, that's great. That's a great start. Well, where do we go from there? Well, some of you guys have been asking for a week or two now, would the Lions dare double dip in the spot? I got your answer for you according to things. And I'm going to kill his name, so don't shoot me. But Fadid Diggs. So if you don't know this guy, you're going to know this guy sooner versus later. He is a incredibly athletic down lineman. And the fact that he's already roughly 260, I don't think it would take a whole lot to, put a little bit of pound muscle the proper way. I know Jen would talk to me about the proper way, but get him up to about 265, maybe even 270. That's not unforeseen. At 6'4", and look at that RAS score. If you guys don't know him, when you're done watching the show today, or maybe even while you're doing it right now, go look at the tape at him. He needs some polishing. I mean, but the rest of it's all there. If you watch the Lions Talk Live for any time, you guys all know, as a coach, I always say, I look for things I can't coach. Size, speed, athleticism, character, desire, motivational factors, stuff like that. But if you watch him, he is raw. He needs some more development. But you know what you can teach? You can teach skill. You can teach technique. You can't teach the other things he has, and he's got that stuff in droves. And again, we'll dive into why, the source gave all these guys out. Next one is going to be Caden Prather, wide receiver out of Maryland. I did not know this guy. I don't know anything about him other than what you're seeing up here. He is 6'3", 200 and some odd pounds, vertical threat, and does have some speed. RAS score, hey, maybe he just had a bad day out there. I would like to see that more in the 8s and the 9s for his position, but it is what it is. Now, as far as the other guys, like I said, I didn't have time to get everybody up there, so I'll just give you the total thing. I try to make the graphics as best I could. Remember these guys at 228, Chaz Chamberlain, and then 244, Lane Larson. So running back and linebacker. Now, you're going to say to me, where do you get all this information? Well, let's dive into it. So breaking down the known Detroit Lions top 30 pre-draft visits and some of the unknown ones. Let's look through the list. Larson, who we just mentioned, was one of their top 30 pre-draft visits. So the UC Davis running back has been asked to come on in. You guys all know how the drafts work, so I'm not going to pre-draft visits work. They talk to him, they like him, and you're going to talking about a late round pick here. I think the Lions go for him according to this stuff. Also, Zabel, you all know it. He's had multiple conversations with the Lions. So it does appear if he falls to 28, unless from what I'm told, the only way the Lions don't go for Zabel if he's available at 28 is if Shamar Stewart, is available. I am told Stewart is the number one prospect for the Detroit Lions, and if they can pull off a trade to move on up to acquire him, that's where they're going to go. And this is the guy from Texas A&M, by the way. So he only had, I want to say, don't hold me to this because I'm going off. I don't have any notes or anything. I want to say he had like 5 sacks in college, so not a ton. But his athleticism, his character, his motor, everything you want to say, kid's got all that stuff. It sounds more and more like the vast majority of pundits think he's not going to make it to that level of the draft. Now, again, maybe the Lions can trade on up and get him, but we'll have to wait and see. Lions have had multiple conversations with Josiah Stewart, so that's why the source thinks the Lions are going to be active trade up to try to acquire him. Chambliss, the linebacker from Georgia, also has had a ton of conversations with the Lions, including a top 30 pre-draft visit. There was another linebacker that also fits that bill, Ruben Hippolyte from Maryland, but doesn't think the source didn't think that the Lions were going to be able to acquire him, that he'll be off the board before the Detroit Lions really went after him. Virtual visits. This is the other one. So we talked about Stewart from Michigan having top 30 pre-draft visits. He's also had 2 virtual visits with the Detroit Lions organization. Why does all this matter? And by the way, so did Diggs from Syracuse, the athletic freak defensive end. Because if you look at the last several drafts in the NFL, last 4 drafts, who drafts more than any other team off their pre-draft and virtual visits? The answer is the Detroit Lions. 82% of their top 30 visits or virtual visits are draft selections by the Lions. So if that holds water, then basically you just go down the list of everybody they've brought in or interviewed, and they're targeting these guys. Brad Holmes isn't trying to misdirection here and there or whatever, saying, hey, we're going to bring this guy in just to throw you off. Even remember Gibbs? A lot of people thought when they drafted Gibbs, that was just a misdirection move. Lions aren't going after him. They just signed David Montgomery. Not so fast. Lions had a plan the entire way, and they pulled off that plan. They also talked about a lot of the people they brought in for local pro day invites. And while we may all kind of say there's no way they're going to go after running back, they brought in quite a few running backs. I think we also get that they also brought in a lot of offensive linemen. Stewart, again, he's on all 3 levels of this. He's in the top 30 visits, the virtual visits, and the pro day visits. So Josiah Stewart is clearly a person of interest to the Detroit Lions. They have put in a ton of resources into him. And I'm not going to go through everybody in the local pro day invites, but you get it. This information probably should give everybody here watching the show, whether live or delay later on, a lot of insight into where Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell are specifically targeting. Probably not a big surprise, offensive line, defensive line, but now you've got the list of who they're more than likely projected to get. What do you say, Duke Crew? I don't mind this list at all. I actually like it. I think this is something good. I think you're getting athleticism. I think you're getting value. Let me put this on the screen. I think I had something set up for you guys to see it. Hold on. Yeah, there you go. Zabel 28, Grant 60, 73 Stewart. Now, that would be a bit of a trade, but even if they can't pull off that, and I think we all agree, if you're investing that many interviews into a guy, you want that guy. Diggs from Syracuse, to me, that'd be the coup de grace if you can pull that off along with getting Stewart, because, man, you just got deep, you just got athletic, and you got some real guys, some dudes, some dogs, whatever you want to say, going out there. Prather, the wide receiver, I just don't know enough about. Maybe some of you guys do. I don't. Chambliss, also kind of not really on my radar. You're getting that late in the draft. I did some looking at him, and I had everybody I could find had like a 300 to 400 grade on him. So he's pretty far down the list. But we also know that Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell don't really care about lists. They care about what they think. Larson, I guess if you're taking him, he does have some wheels. He does have some power. Maybe you're thinking, hey, he's the heir apparent for Craig Reynolds a year from now. But it just seems like they put a lot into that position. But again, to be fair, I don't know enough about those last 2 guys to have any kind of real informed information for you. All right, Duke, we've got about 5. Oh, wow, I cut that a little long. 5 minutes until Anthony from Roar Lions UK. I believe he's going to hop on today. I haven't actually heard from him today, but it is Tuesday. All right, JDC, morning all. Back at you. Bo Booth, good morning, Duke Crew. All will be revealed. All will be revealed in time. Exclamation point. Woo! Back at you. Pierce, did Benedict Johnson leak this one too? No, I can say the person who messaged me way too early this morning is an actual Lions reporter for a publication, I guess I could say, in the Metro Detroit area. Clark, yo, Duke Crew, exclamation point. It's going to be spicy today. Let's hope so, my friend. I do like some spicy. Big Eddie, greetings, salutations. I'm sure we will get much more. I'm sure we will get much more detailed information on all the teams the closer we get to the draft. 100%. It just, there's nothing to do. Somebody's going to talk to somebody. It's same in the 1800s as it was the 1900s. If somebody has information, they're going to try to increase their wallet by, selling that information to reporters. That's just never changed. Henry Moore, good morning, Coach Dan and the Duke Crew. What a team. What a podcast. Thank you for that. What a time to be a Lions fan. Woo! Yes, and I will say, and I've said it again, I think this is the most anticipated draft that I've had for the Lions in some time. I think we just go so many good possibilities and directions. Brent, good morning, Dan and Duke Crew. Lions ruled, the Bears drool. I like that one, by the way. Oh, yeah. Trey, what's going on, everybody? Question mark. We all think we know what Brad is going to cook up, but he typically doesn't do what we expect. No, you are 1,000% correct with that, Trey. Any more? Good morning, Bo, Big Eddie, Clark, and Pierce. All the above. Good morning, everybody. What the heck? Jess, greetings, salutations, Duke Crew. Flip, Benz Johnson, Pierce Sargent. Can't stand that guy anymore. It happens, man. It happens. And Big Eddie, good morning, Henry Moore. Clark, good morning, Henry. Pierce, Jess Lynn, the Laugh Out Loud, the same. Drake. So who are we getting? Let me know your thoughts on what you guys think of their thoughts on it. I don't mind it, and I don't really get big into the mock drafts just because who really knows. But when they're corroborating it with their thoughts or whatever, I guess on the pro days, the virtual tours, the 30 draft visits, it does make a lot of sense. Stephanie Wilder, good morning, boys! Exclamation point. Heading to the gym, but listening in. Come on, Brad, give us that killer draft that takes us to the Super Bowl. I think we're all on board with that. Five Fingers Freddy has to be a Lions-dominated draft, both O and D lines. Yeah, I think we're all anticipating that. Who knows, man? Maybe we could just go for 40 wide receivers and 2 running backs. But both smart money should be on Brad moving up in the first round. History tends to prove his mobility at least. Yeah. Brad has been, during his time as a GM in the NFL, one of the most active draft day trading GMs out there. So you're spot on with that, Bo. Quentin, greetings, salutations. Duke Crew, any chances we move up to get Carter? Carter, I can't even imagine what you'd have to move up. I think Carter, if it was me, he'd be the number 1 pick in the draft, but probably a quarterback's going to go number 1. I think we can all agree he's going to be at least in the top 3 or 4. Could the Lions give up enough to move up that far? I don't know, man. You'd really have to sell the farm in my anticipation. Been wrong before, though. Dave, how far do we move up, Bo Booth? I could see us trading up to 20 or so. Yeah, I could see that. Or maybe even, high to mid-teens. France, hope everyone is having a good day. If we trade, I'm starting to think more that we move back out of round 1. Well, if we did that, to your point, we talked about in this one, the Lions, moving up to get basically 2 second-round picks. Maybe they'd trade back and end up with 3 second-round picks or something like that. I don't know that, but to your point, I could see that happening. About 12 seems to be a popular spot for Brad. Alabama player, maybe. Ooh, he does love some Alabama players. So how much would that cost us, Bo? I don't know. We'll find out. Pierce, as I have said before, Edge, yeah, I think we're all agreeing on that. Cut Davenport, maybe. Susan, good morning, boys. Exclamation point. I don't know if we move forward or back. Whatever we do, I think Holmes has been war gaming this draft for months. Yeah, all GMs, just so you know, GMs, coach, they sit around. They do have, as you're putting it, a war room, and they run through scenario. What if this guy goes, that guy goes, whatever. They want to be prepared because you got whatever it is, 10 minutes in the first round. 2 or 3 of the guys you were anticipating being there at your selection aren't there. You've got to have the answer real quick. You can't waste time. Trey, I doubt we cut Davenport, Pierce Sargent because he's cheap and it appears the coaches like him. I'm with you. We will draft edges. Yeah, probably true. Steve, greetings, salutations to Coach Dan and the amazing Mountain Dew crew. I think Brad and Dan do a very good job of keeping these cards close to their vest. 100%. It does appear, and I don't know, but it does appear, at least in my mind, that this information is more analytical, but maybe there's actual weight behind it. I'd have to ask more questions to be fair. And at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, I'm not always the most fluid as far as thinking about what I should have done. Pierce, Trey Tipson, main issue, 21 games played in the last 3 seasons with Davenport. Yeah, his availability has not been great, which brings up a point I probably should have pointed out when we talked about Jared Goff. Is there a quarterback in the NFL? And this is a legit question. You don't have to be team golf or team anti-golf with this one. Let me know your thoughts. Who's a quarterback in the NFL the last 5 years who has been more durable than Jared Goff? Now look over the last 8 years, and I don't have an answer. It's not like I'm trying to segue to an answer, but Jared Goff has to be one of the most durable quarterbacks in the NFL over his career. He's only missed a couple games that I can think of, and I know the dude played with a broken hand or thumb or something like that once upon a time. Rocky, hope that's not true about the draft board being revealed. Just another downfall of losing coaches anyways. The downside is when coaches do part, they may not have known everything about the draft board, but they probably had some ideas about things for sure. That's not uncommon. Pierce, straight tipping. I trust Brad and Dan. I am just curious what they see in Davenport. Yeah, when he was healthy, I liked him, but he just can't stay healthy. All right, guys, it's about that time to bring on over our special guest of the day. Let's go over and get to Anthony, Roar Lions UK. Anthony, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, my friend. Hope you had a good holiday last week. Had some much-needed break.
Played a little bit too much blackjack and ended up losing $40 over my week in Vegas. So I'll count that as win since I probably got comped a few beverages over that. So maybe it was actually not a loss, but a gain. But so with that being said, we all get it. We are getting closer and closer to the NFL draft. It does appear we've gotten some information, and I want to get your thoughts on it. I don't know if you saw it, so let me bring it up on the screen. I don't know if they're basing this all on the virtual visits, the pro days, the 30 visits, etc. But this is the projection I was given for who and what the Lions are going to draft. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this if you can.
Where do we get the pick from 73 from? Are we trading that?
Yes, here. No, I'll even show you the trade. And this is a projection, obviously. Jets get those. Well, I guess you can't see all 3 picks. Hold on. Let me get that off the screen. Sorry, Bo. Jets get 3 picks. Lions get 1 pick in return. So, but I like the kid. I think most Michigan fans or whatever, or Lions fans are probably Michigan fans. They probably know about Josiah Stewart and probably aren't complaining about that pick, but been wrong before. What are your thoughts?
You
need that on the screen again?
No, it's all right. I'm never gonna, doubt Brad and what he does, etc. There. For me, I don't want to bell at 28. I've actually done a video for this later today on our guard situation there, but I believe it is more beneficial for this team this year that Christian Mahogany gets to go at left guard and we move Graham back over to right. We need that 6th round contract starting for the next 3 years at left guard. And yes, you can still draft Sabell and put him in as well. I don't want to bet in 2 new guards in 1 season. I like continuity with my offensive line and to keep as much as possible. Try and replace 1 guy a year, get the next guy in the system before you go on to the next. I don't want too much there. And if you bring Sabell in and then you block Mahogany's development, it's going to be bad for the Lions long term with all these massive contracts we've got coming through and that we're going to have to pay up, putting another 1st round pick in there. It's going to make things problematic. So the long-term view I take of it, I want to put Mahogany in there and leave him there. I believe the defensive line is more of is a pressing concern for us right now. And there's enough players knocking around this year that one of them's at least got to be up Brad's board when it comes to that there. Kenneth Grant is never going to be there at 60. He's going to be gone by the end of the 1st round. That is just not a feasible thing. Like, obviously, if he's there at 60, yeah, you run that one to the board or you start investigating as to why he's fallen so far. Josiah Stewart, I'm not as sold on. I mean, if Derek Barnes had not have come back, that's fine. But Josiah Stewart he spent most of his career playing bandit. And that's the outside linebacker role that that is put in our system. We got Derek Barnes for that. He's not a true out-and-out edge rusher. You know, he had his 1 year at Michigan. I just don't think schematically it's the fit for us, unless you want depth for Barnes. But Barnes playing that outside linebacker role this year. So, not personally one I do, but I'm not going to disagree with Brad if he does do it. You know, he knows more than me. I'm just a bald guy on the internet who knows nothing.
Join the group, man. It does sound like, from what I was told, the number one person the Lions want to draft is Stewart, but it just doesn't sound like they can go and acquire him. You know, I think we all get it. The guy's got some athleticism, got some size, etc. Why do you think, what would be so attractive from a Lions standpoint to acquire him if they can?
Nothing. He's not the type of prospect they go after. You know, we had this whole thing with Darius Robinson last year, you know, the local prospect. They brought him in. Everyone's going, oh, my God, look at the RAS. Look at the physical attributes. Look what he could be. He was another who'd severely underdelivered in college in terms of his production and had not got the technical side nailed down and what you want from him. And look where he went, to Arizona. Now, Arizona just bought Josh Sweat in. They got him as a first-round pick last year. What's one of the top needs on their draft boards that everybody out there was looking in? Edge. Why? Why has he not filled that role there? Why are they not trusting him going forward with that? Because, like so many of these guys who are physically gifted, they've got all the tools and that, but have not produced in college, you can't teach. I mean, you can teach technique, but you've had 3-4 years in college to at least make a start on what you want to do. And the fact that you've not is a red flag for me. He's got so many problems, Shamar Stewart does. Like, people say ignore the sack numbers. Okay, right, let's try and ignore the sack numbers for now. The production is incredibly low. He's got a career 27% plus missed tackle rate. He can't tackle, which is one of the big things on the edge when you're run defending, tackling, grappling up properly, getting your technique right. He can't do that. He can't get to the quarterback. What is he? He's just very athletic, and he's got the tools. Big whoop. There are a ton of edge rushers in this draft who may not they may not have the RAS score, they may not have the athleticism, etc. They've got the production. They're a lot better. You're going to have guys available to you at 28, like Donovan Aziruwaku, like Nick Skowhegan. Hell, if you're looking on the interior, guys like Walter Nolan, who are vastly, vastly superior to him, and you're not going to have to go and, God, if you trade up to get him as well, for me, that's verging on malpractice. Kid's only got his athleticism going for him. That is it. And we have seen so many examples of these kids come through in the last few years who do nothing when they get up to the next level. And Brad traditionally stays well away from them, rightfully so. Of course, they bring them in to see what they're about, see if there's anything there that anyone else has missed. You do top 30 visits to do due diligence because you've not completed your analysis of a player. It doesn't mean they really like them all the time. It means we're not sure. Don't go anywhere near him.
So not exactly Lions related information here, but it has come out from the NFL meetings that the league is going to, by 2027-ish, push for 18 games. It does sound like they're going to add another bye week. It does sound like they're also looking to expand the NFL from beyond the borders of the United States to add potentially 2 teams overseas, one being in the UK, one potentially in Mexico. What are your thoughts on an 18-game season and the league expanding outside of the borders of the United States?
I think the 18-game season I don't want it. I don't want an extra game in there. I mean, you've seen the physical toll that the 17-game season took on our team last year going into the playoffs. You're battered, you're bruised, you're going to dilute the Super Bowl in the end. Rosters are just going to get there, and they're going to be absolutely wiped out. Now, I know that you lose a preseason game for it, but generally starters don't play preseason. This is another extra game to the schedule. Plus, if you make the season longer, it adds the risk that if a team wins their division with 3-4 weeks to go and no one can, assail them, you're just going to get loads of meaningless games towards the end of a year that mean nothing. People get sat. It's just going to dilute the value of the product. You don't want that. And I think it's nonsensical. You've got to start increasing rosters. And then you've got an extra bye week. The season gets even longer. You've got less time for rest, more time to condition guys. I don't like it whatsoever. So I don't want an 18th game. I don't want franchises overseas either. I would be vehemently opposed to a franchise in the UK. We don't want one. We don't need one. The whole beauty of being able to support teams from over here is, you're buying into a franchise. It's you're buying into the culture of it, or you're buying into the history of it all. We don't want our own team here. No one would support it. People are too inwardly, attached to their teams over here. You have to be a very loyal fan to sort of stick with a team from a different country and that. So I don't want another team from abroad. I just don't think it would make sense whatsoever. I think they're overstepping their bounds here on both marks. Keep it in America. Obviously, you've got the international games, which is good. Spread the game that way. Have the international games. That's great. That's all you need to do with it. Just stop trying to expand it. Stop trying to extort more money. You make enough money already as part of the NFL. You've got tons more you can make. No to both.
So, one other question for you, just because I know the Lions or NFL, whoever you want to say, kind of offer the idea this week that, hey, we'd like to get it to where in the playoffs, sort of like with the Minnesota Vikings last year, you get a team that has the better record, but yet they didn't win their division. They're going on the road. Do you think that's a good idea, having just whoever has the best record host the games? Or do you fear that now devalues the importance of winning your division?
I like because they've amended, they've tabled it for now with an amendment, haven't they? They've said if a conference winner has a sub 500 record, then this, and I agree with that. I think it's unfair. Like the last couple of years, we've seen terrible iterations of the NFC East first, when it was the NFC least, and then obviously the NFC South this year, which was an absolute dumpster fire, really. Those teams should not be hosting playoff games because they're in bad conferences. So I think, if you're below 500, at 500, if you're one game above 500, maybe I would take the seeding and I do away with it and do it by order. I think there's a compromise to be made here, but there shouldn't be automatics for the 4 division winners. I don't think. I think it should be done by record. And then, it should lead to hopefully a bit more competition in there. How boring were the playoffs the last few years, the first rounds especially. 2 years ago when we beat the Rams in that great game, ours was the only good game of the wild card. Everything else sucked awfully. Last year, the first round of the playoffs, for me, they were terrible. There were so few good games in there. They're just not competitive. There's something wrong with the structure of it. So I do agree changing it. And, you're having to incentivize people to work harder to get these spots and to not just almost coast the last bit of the season and go, well, we're in there. It doesn't matter what our record is, because it's just leading to bad playoffs. So I think it should be done by record. And I think the 4 automatic qualifiers should go if there's a record discrepancy in one of the conferences and the winner doesn't do that well.
Okay, last question for you here. And then, I know you got stuff going on, so I'll let you get on your day. If you were Brad Holmes going into the draft, which would be more enticing to you? Trading up in the first round or trading back into the second round?
Trading up into the first round. Brad has always been about getting the right guys on this team, not many guys on this team. We've not always had the biggest draft classes, but we don't need to. It's about getting the right personnel here, and that limits the Lions board, makes it very small because there's only a few guys they believe who can truly fit the culture here. So I'm always about going up. I think they will go up again this year, especially, I know he likes best player available and that, but I think with your sheer need at defensive tackle and end, and also him being a trench guy, I think it feels like this is the year where you could probably guess that he's going to go defensive line first. And if you've got one specific guy on your board, because this edge class is very, it splits opinion, let's just say for the record, you will go up and get the right guy rather than sit and wait and see which guy falls to you. Like, we need a game changer on the D-line. I don't want to sit here and wait for one. I don't want to trade back and think we're going to get one that, might fall down there. We don't need the picks. We've got 7. That is going to be more than enough for this team this year.
All right, Anthony, as always, I want to thank you for taking a little time out of your day. Come on over and hang out with the Do Crew. Why don't you go ahead and give yourself a shout out to everywhere they can support you, your great work, and all the things you do.
Appreciate you and the Do Crew as always. Hope you have a fantastic day. Yeah, you can find me at Roar of the Lions UK. We're a group of Detroit Lions fans from across the pond in Blighty who don't want a UK NFL franchise over here. Yeah, we go live on Mondays. I talk college ball on Wednesdays. So yeah, come by, say hi. We're happy to have you in with us. As I say, thanks ever so much. Enjoy your week, and hopefully this draft gets here sooner rather than later. I'm ready for it at this point. I'm ready for the draft.
All right. Well, he is the Brit with grit, the man with the plan. He is Anthony from Roar Lions UK. Goes ahead and support him. And again, you have a great day, and thanks for hopping on the show.
Will do. You take care. Bye.
We'll see you now. All right, a couple more questions here or comments from the Duke Crew, and then I'm going to get on here and get ready for work today. Lions bad guy, looks like the league doesn't give a dang about the players get injured. They just care about how much money these players will make the NFL's turning into a money-hungry business. Yeah, I would say probably like most sports franchises or really just companies in general. They do what they can for their employees, but at the end of the day, they're worried about expanding the business, making more money, and whether you agree with it or not, I'm not here to debate that, but I do get what you're saying there, bad guy. The only thing I would say is if they do, when they go to the 18-game season, you're probably saying goodbye to the preseason, and it would at least be my hope you add 1 or 2 more bye weeks. I think if you could get it to where you play 18 games, maybe you play 5 weeks, get a bye, 5 weeks, get a bye, or something like that, maybe it helps a little bit, but I get your point. When you start taking advantage of your employees to make more money, that's when you're going to get upset employees. You don't want to upset employees. Yeah, I mean, I can remember the league season was just 12 games, and everybody was up in arms when they went to 13 and 14 and then 16. The only thing I can say is the players or the employees do get compensated pretty well, and you got a choice. You can go play in the UFL or you can play in the NFL. One of these are going to make you some pretty good money, but if you want to be a professional football player, you probably just don't have many choices, at least at this time. Or you guess you could play in the CFL or Arena League too, but you're probably not getting nearly the paychecks. Trey, NFL will expand in time. I think like the NBA, I mean, the NHL plays internationally, so does Major League Baseball. I mean, it's Canada, but I think it's unavoidable. I think definitely in the next few years, I think the NBA will be in major markets overseas. I just think I think it's unavoidable in a certain degree. I guess you could say it's already there. NFL, I think there's only so many places you can expand within the United States. Still, I believe, and get return on your investment. I do think you're probably in the next few years going to see a team. I don't think you'll see it in Canada just because Canada loves the CFL so much, but I could see Mexico. Who knows about the UK or somewhere else, but I do think we're all going to live to see it. Jess, will they get to 20 games? Whew, I won't rule it out. I think the NFL would want to stop and think about at some point is part of the magic of the NFL. It's because there really is only so many games, and so the weight of every game is so important. Do you want to start really devaluing that? But at the same time, if the games are all sold out, whether it's online or, in person, I guess the dollar speaks. And if people are paying for it, then yeah, go with it. Bo well said, Anthony, exclamation point. No to a European team. There you go. Hookadoo. Morning, Anthony. Brit with grit. Ant-Man. So what's the character across the pond on expanding to the chatter? Excuse me. On the across the pond to expand to the UK. Doesn't sound like Anthony's looking forward to it if it happens, but we'll see if it shakes out. I can only tell you my personal thoughts. I think we're going to see it happen. Gary, agreed. Bo, Drake, keep the division winners hosting. And I know Anthony's got his thoughts on it. I know you're hearing more and more people talk about it since the debates come up. My worry is if you devalue the division winners by saying, hey, you might not necessarily win or host a playoff game, then really towards the end of the season, those games now don't mean as much because, go back to the Minnesota Vikings versus Detroit Lions. If you don't win, who cares? I'm going to the playoffs. We're probably both going to be hosting, so that game would lose some luster. I would think you'd start becoming more and more like the NBA then in that regards, and it's just my opinion. You can have a different one. I think part of the reason why the NBA is struggling, there's a multitude of reasons, but really the regular season games, and if you win your division, they don't really mean jack anymore. Let's see. Bad guy Stewart 6'1", not 6'5", 6'6". Please, where did you see he was 6'5"? All right. Stephanie, Brad will trade up, book it. Yeah, I'd say probably most people would agree with that. I know I've been saying it for some time. I think we're going to try to move up to around number 15 or so. All right, Brad's history proves that he'll move up to grab this guy. Oh, yeah. If he's got a guy he really wants, I think you're spot on. And it does sound like, at least from the information we currently have, that Stewart is probably that guy if they want to go get him. Bo, Brad will get his guy, exclamation point. Thanks, Ant-Man. Agreed. JDC, happy trails. Go Lions, victory. Always good to see you, JDC, by the way. Bobo, happy trails, Dude Crew. See you next time. We'll see you then, my friend. Brent, happy trails. One pride worldwide. You got to love the pride. Let's see. Hookadoo, happy trails, Dude Crew. Top of the morning. Brett DeWitt, there you go. Surfer, good morning, Coach Everyone. Back at you. Brent, good morning, Hookadoo. The Spirit of Detroit podcast. What's up, though? What's up? Not too much. How you doing? Guessing you're just getting done working. I'm not 100% sure with that. So anyways, great job as always. And thanks for coming on the show, my friend. Brent, we do need to get you on again. So Anthony, Avery, Brent, good morning, Spirit of Detroit podcast, 100%. Science service. The political climate has cooled down before Europe will want an NFL team. Maybe. Yeah, that I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade. Pastor Ben, good morning. Coach Dan, trusting in what got us here. Brad and Dan scouting has got us here. I can't wait to see the finished product. No, I think they're going to do a pretty dang good job with stuff. So I can't wait to see. Tim Thornton, hey, my brother. I have not seen one mock draft with Kenneth Grant falling all the way to 60. That would be a true steal if they pull it off. Yeah, I'm down with it. So I have no idea. That's beyond my wisdom. We'll see what shakes out. Brad, let's see. Ed, Brad might trade back in order to trade up. Hey, sometimes you got to go back to go forward. I don't know. So we'll wait and see. That'll be part of the fun of the draft. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get on here, get ready for work. It is going to be an explosive day, probably like yesterday, so I got to get ready for it. If you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so, making that march to whatever it is, 13,500 and just a few subs away. So if you can help out with that, that'd be great. Also, when you're taking on off, if you can hit the thumbs up button, the like button, all the buttons, I surely would be thankful. If there is breaking news later today, I'll get over to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you all on the next Lions Talk Live. Take care, everybody.
Excuse me, sir, would you... Donations to the Reverend Moon? Juice for Jesus? Read about Jehovah's Witness? How about Buddhism? How Jerry's kids? Oh, yeah. Scientology? Or nuclear power?